Hi, this is Pepper. Earlier this year, I had some topics and suggestions from readers and listeners that I wanted to get into. That was the plan for the year. And then, as we all know, everything kind of went in its own direction. But now that things are settling down a little bit, I'd like to go back to some of those topics. And I think they're just as important for the year going forward, and some of the ways that we relate to our life and relate to the world around us. So maybe in some of the articles that I've written or in the videos that I've made, maybe you hear me use the term Anima Mundi more often than you hear the term Gaia, which I sometimes still use as well. And moving forward, you'll hear me, and maybe others as well, use that term, Anima Mundi, more frequently. And so I wanted to explain why a little bit. So many years ago, 25 years ago or so, when I began feeling all these energies and work with the earth, Gaia was the first, most available, authentic name, what I could call the energy, and a name that most people were somewhat familiar with as well. So when we say Gaia, it's the Greek name for the goddess of the earth, or all that grows. And so it was already an established name. And so I used that because it came the closest. I don't think that there's any name that really appropriately describes the energy, the sentience, the awareness of our planet, and either what that feels like or how that communicates with us. But we are a very name conscious culture. We name something, we own it, we call it ours, it's mine, this is my first name, this is my last name. But what happens when we do that as well is that we have very strong identity with a name as well. This is what a table looks like. It has 4 legs, it looks this way, it's this tall. So we get these pictures of things. And once we name something and label it, it's really hard to change it. We have to really adapt our mind and our imagination to reimagine something, and then eventually we can. So as I went forward with that name, Gaia, all was well and well understood. It made a lot of sense. But as the years went on, it seemed like it was becoming, well, a little bit too much like a brand, a trademark. This is Gaia, this is Gaian. It became kind of almost like a new age term. Then it became a product. So there was yoga materials, everything had the name Gaia. Anything that was natural and fresh or organic had the name Gaia. And so it started taking on kind of an identity of its own that was more materialistic, more product-like. And as that was happening, I began to feel that this idea that we had of who Gaia is instead of what Gaia is was taking shape. What does Gaia say? What does Gaia sound like? What does Gaia write like? And the way in which we as humans related to Gaia or its sentience, goddess, or thinking in terms of she, or very feminine. And I understood that, but I never quite felt that in that same way. And then later on, it seemed to me that when I tuned into that energy, I had to reach for it a little bit more. It seemed to be a little bit further away. It took me a little longer to find that space. The voice or the feeling, the impressions that I received were not quite as aware, awake, present. And I wondered for a while, is it me? Am I overworked? Am I overtired? Have I overspent these energies? Have I overused them? Have I used them for things that I shouldn't have? Do I need a rest? So many different things over the course of about a year and a half. And finally, as many of you know, I just decided to take a break from everything. And it was very helpful. During that time of taking a break, it's a little bit like a sabbatical, but when you're so used to doing something as well, you don't know what to do or what it feels like when you're not doing that. So for a little while, it really felt like I was blind, like I couldn't hear. The impressions of the world around me seemed to be a little bit more shrouded, a little bit quieter. So it was an interesting time. Fast forward a few years, and I began to feel those inklings, those seeds just wanting to burst inside me again. And so I started exploring those energies again. And they felt somewhat similar, like what I was accustomed to, like what I was used to. But at the same time, it wasn't quite the same. And some of the ways that I can describe the differences is that the earth wants to return its natural balance to all of nature versus human nature. Things have been really skewed for a while. Everything in terms of humanity, we have civilized the world, we have cultivated the world, we have compartmentalized the world, and we have brought Gaia along that journey with us. So we made a person out of Gaia. We humanize things. We humanize our animals and pets, and we take wildness and make gardens out of it. And we take wild plots of land and we divide them into squares and properties and decide who owns that resource or that land or that country. So the earth isn't really like that. All of those are just ideas that we as humans have implanted upon the earth by agreement. We decide that we own things, they are our property, and that we are allowed to do those things. So we have done that. We have put animals in zoos and in laboratories, and we hybridize plants and decide how and when they will grow. And so for all those reasons, it felt to me that that was not working in the earth that I was relating to. And I wanted to help. I wanted to help the earth, the energies that I was feeling, be vital again, to revitalize the earth, to rewild the earth, to let animals be in their wild nature the way they are, not necessarily us feeling that they are encroaching on our land when most of the time it's the other way around. And so as I began to feel all those things, I needed a different way to express that energy. So the term Anima Mundi, which really means the world soul, is also a very, very old term. It's a Latin term, I suppose, instead of the Greek one that it's Gaia. But what it really means is just the living connection between all things earth, between all things human. It describes a vital force rather than a being, rather than a personage or an entity. So when we say Anima Mundi, it's the energy, the force that animates all things upon the earth, whether it's an animal or a vegetable or a mineral, a mountain or a seed or whatever it is animated and expressed by the earth in this way, animated to be. So in a sense, we are also Anima Mundi. We are also animated in this way upon the earth. Something makes us breathe and relate to the earth and care about nature. It is natural to us, and it's the same force. It's this animating Anima Mundi force or world soul. So it's a way of then acknowledging that it is not a being necessarily, but a force. And that encompasses all of the kingdoms, all of the elements, all that expresses itself upon the earth in whatever form it takes. And so I feel more comfortable with that today. When I use that term today, I feel more comfortable relating to the earth and knowing that in some way I or all of us are helping things to become wild and natural again, restoring the earth to its natural state that way, and restoring ourselves in the process that way. So that's why that term as well. So along with that term, there's a few others that you'll hear me use. I'll use one other one today, and then we'll save the other ones for another video. So axis mundi is what we might think of as that pole that we could think of that goes all the way through the earth, all the way through us, our own core. It's we can call it cosmic axis. It's been called that as well. Other terms for it: a world pillar, the center of the world. So we have this incredible polarity that goes through us as well, and that makes us then the center of the earth. Wherever we place ourselves, that pole, that axis goes through us and connects with the earth, connecting earth and heavens. And so this axis mundi then is how the earth relates or expresses itself to us and through us, through our own axis. That's how we receive the earth, through this axis of knowing. So not necessarily we can say it's in our heart, it's in our mind. It moves through this whole axis of energy, moves through the earth's fields, moves through our fields, and makes us all one and the same, and all able to relate to each other. So axis mundi is just a term that means support of the world. So the axis supports the world. It's a celestial pole, and there's other things I could say that as well. So if we think of an imaginary point, we could also say that all of the directions, all of the compass points would align or come together, intersect in this polarity or the axis of the world as well. Our center, our polarity, the compass directions, the higher and the lower realms exchange energies this way through that axis as well. So both of these then, axis mundi, anima mundi, being a way to relate to the earth and how the earth works and how we receive guidance, messages, expressions, connections with the earth and its kingdoms, and then our own connection to above, below, within, without, everything through our own axis as well. So because so many of you have known me for a long time, you'll still hear me say Gaia, and Gaia said, and Gaia used to say, and like that, but more frequently now, I prefer to relate to the whole earth as an energy, and I think it benefits the earth that way too. So that's it for this short video, and I'll see you again soon. Be well.